Hello and welcome to the Destination Knit podcast. I'm Summer and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Destination Knit. So it's been a couple weeks since my last episode, but I didn't really have anything to show you, and now I do. So I figured I would film an episode today and try to get into the routine of doing it every 3 weeks maybe. I feel like 2 weeks is going to be too soon, but if you have any recommendations or you want it every so often, put it in the description, not in the description, in the comments below and let me know what you think. So I'm going to start with my giant finished object. I have finished the Star Flanket by Stephen West. I knit it out of Cascade 220 Superwash and size 7 needles, I think, maybe 8, 6. It's whatever it called for in the pattern is what I used. And I will link the pattern in my project page down in the description box. So I would call it finished, but I do still have ends to weave in and I do have to block it. But I will show you what it looks like off the needles. So right now it's touching the ground and it's taller than I am. So it's a really, really massive blanket. And I am in love with how it turned out. So some things that I did differently would be, I did not have the right number of stitches like ever when I was knitting this, and I just kept going. I fixed it when I could, like if there was an obvious, like if I obviously missed a knit two together or a yarn over or something, then I would go back and fix it. But sometimes I would just be counting away and I'd be like, oh, there are 37 stitches on this side and then 42 on this side. What? So I did end up running out of yarn on this blue section right here. It's one row shorter than the rest of them, and I guess that's just a function of having too many stitches, is that you will run out of yarn. But I think it looks fine. It's one row shorter than it should be, but who would know, okay? And then this gray section is also 2 rows shorter, or 1 garter ridge shorter than it should be, because I got so tired of knitting this. Like, it wasn't fun anymore because all I wanted to do was cast on something else, and all my cords were in this, and I'm using Chiagu interchangeables, so I couldn't cast on anything else because I didn't have any cords to put it in. So I am so happy that this is done, and it does not bother me at all that it's 3 rows shorter, because I mean, you saw how big it was. 3 rows is not that much in the scheme of things. So I think it turned out great. If you are going to make your own, I definitely think that you should. And I think it'd be a little bit fun to do like a scrappy version of this. I would not have the patience for it, but it'd be a nice long-term knit. He has an example on his project page. Stephen West has an example on the pattern page of one that's really scrappy, and it looks really cool. So that's my only finished object for you. And I have 2 works in progress. The first one is my Katarato Sweater by Amy Christoffers. It's bottom up, obviously, a little bit of rib, and then a broken rib stitch. Can you see that? And it looks and feels so good. I really like it. I just haven't had the momentum to keep going on this sweater. I was really set on finishing Star Flanket, and I kind of put everything else to the side for the past month. So I'm excited to get to working on this again, and I just know it's going to be so cozy when it's finished. It'll be like a really soft, comfy pullover, and so I do think it's going to look really great when it's done. I'm knitting it out of Barocco Summer Silk, and honestly, this is like the softest yarn I've ever felt. I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for a comfy sweater yarn option. It's a little bit more on the pricey side, but it's definitely worth it if you ask me. So my second work in progress is something that I just started. If you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen the bottom of it, but I just started the chest cardigan by Rook Official. So you can see the little chest pieces, and you can also tell that it's very see-through. This would not make a good mask right now if I was going to the store. But I'm using Holst yarn in, what is this, 100% wool in the colorway Cloudberry, and size 2 knitting needles, US 2, 2.75 millimeters. And it's really see-through. But I've heard from another podcaster, Amy Florence from Stranded Podcast. I saw that she's used it for a couple of her sweaters and says that it blooms really well when you wash it. And I'm a little skeptical, but I was scrolling a bunch on Instagram on the Whole Scarns page and like seeing what projects other people have made with them, and people have made a ton of sweaters out of this. So I think it will get bigger. Get bigger, is that the right word? It blooms is I guess what everyone else says, but I think it just kind of like helps it to not be so thin. So I've got almost 3 of the chest pieces done, and it's going to need some blocking obviously for the rib, but this is the back of it. And just based on the construction, I honestly think it'd be good for a beginner if you haven't knit anything to wear before, like a sweater or a cardigan. And I mean, I haven't finished it, so I haven't really read through the whole pattern, but when I was skimming through it, it seems really easy, and the construction's very unique. It is a paid-for pattern, so I don't want to give too much away, but it seems fun. So I do have 2 acquisitions, and the first one is going to be this yarn right here. This is Trendsetter Yarns Steamers. It's 100% cotton, and this cake is 880 yards. You can see all the colors in there. And I am making this shawl. It is called the Leaf Shoulder Wrap, and it's by Trendsetter Yarn Group. And the coolest thing about this yarn is that it was made for this pattern. So you can see it's gray and then burgundies and pinks, and so the background is going to be gray. This isn't the yarn that I'm using, but the background is going to be gray, and then it's going to have pink and purple leaves on it. So this is like, the yarn comes like this. You don't have to stripe it like yourself and have all those ends to weave in. So it seems really fun, and I'm doing that as a class at Sin City Knit Shop. So my other acquisition is in this project bag that says Paws Off My Knitting. And I got this bag at the Knitting Addiction in Kitty Hawk at the outer, or it might be Kitty Hawk. It's in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And I am filling it with this yarn. I have 2 of these. It's the Mani Petty Lion Brand yarns. It's a 75-25. And there's only 219 yards per skein. This is the crew colorway, by the way. And there's only 219 yards, so I did buy 2 of them. I'm going to make some shorty socks, but I'm not really sure how much yarn they're going to take, so I did buy a second one. And then I don't think that I'm going to care about the stripes lining up. I think I'm just going to wing it. And I really just wanted some fun little shorty socks. I haven't made shorty socks before, and I need like a good, relaxing, mindless knit, and for me that's socks. But honestly, the 2 sweaters that I have going are pretty mindless also. They have a little bit of patterning, but not enough that I could mess it up if I was watching TV or something. So that's all I've got for you in terms of knitting. I think I mentioned this in the last podcast episode, but I just moved to Las Vegas from North Carolina, and I moved here to get my master's in anthropology. And things are very weird, like with COVID and everything. So I'm trying to give it some time, because right now everything's just kind of weird, and I miss my friends and my parents and stuff. And I do have a roommate here, and she was a random roommate, but she's really, really great. And it's hard to make friends when all your classes are online and stuff, but I'm giving it a shot. I've already found my knitting group at Sin City Knits, and they're fabulous over there, and I love going. So I have that. If you're ever in Las Vegas, I would definitely recommend going to Sin City Knit Shop. It's really cute. They have tons and tons of yarn. Every time I go in there, I want to buy something, but I'm trying to hold back. So theoretically, I would be starting Christmas projects soon, but I need to get a list together of everything that I want to make for people and everything I want to buy for people, and see if I'm going to have time. We only have, I guess it's almost a little less than 4 months until Christmas, so it's time to start thinking about it. You know, if you wait until December, you have no time to knit for anybody. So if you have any recommendations of things to do in Las Vegas, then you should put them in the comments, and I will try to do them. My recommendations for you this week are the Stranded podcast by Amy Florence. I don't know if I think I've already mentioned that before, but I really like her podcast. And a homespun house. I splurged a little this weekend, and I paid for her like Patreon membership, and I've been watching her little videos and stuff, and I would honestly recommend it. They're really fun, and she has 2 Patreon levels, and the first one you get access to like the blogs and the videos and stuff, and then the second one you also get 3 minis mailed to you every month. So that's the one that I chose because I figured I could use some yarn sent to me every month. Who can't, right? I'm playing with this yarn, sorry. I should probably stop fiddling with it at the bottom of the screen. But a homespun house, Patreon, and podcasts I would recommend. She has her podcasts on YouTube, and those are free, obviously. So if you want to check her out, she's very sweet, has an adorable family. They just moved to Germany, and she has really fun knits. So definitely worth checking out. If you have any podcast recommendations for me, I would love to hear them. A non-knitting podcast recommendation is the Brene Brown podcast. I know it's on Spotify, but I'm sure it's on like Apple Podcasts and stuff like that. And I guess it's an educational podcast because she's a psychologist or a social worker, and it's really, really interesting. I would definitely recommend it. So I think that's all I have for you. I didn't make a script, I guess, for this week's episode. Normally I write out what I want to say, and I've really just been winging it because it's just been that kind of week. So maybe next week or the next time I do this, it'll be a little more coherent. All right, happy knitting, guys.